This man disguises himself as a scarecrow in order to escape the pursuit. At this time, a group of 4 vigilantes with 2 bloodhounds chase after him. They search around but can't find him anywhere. However, the bloodhounds still bark non-stop. Looking at the scarecrow in front, the postman in the group feels something strange. An evil smile immediately appeared on his face. After that, the group point their guns at the scarecrow and fire repeatedly. They don't know that their nightmare started from that moment. A terrifying revenge is about to begin. Bubba is a gentleman with an extremely low IQ. Even though he's over 30, he's still like a 7-year-old child. One day, Bubba is playing on the meadow with little Marilee, his best friend. In the distance, a pair of cruel eyes is staring at them. This person is the postman in the town named Otis. He has had bad intentions towards Marilee for a long time. He is very upset by the closeness between Marilee and Bubba. When 2 friends pass a house, Marilee is attracted to the toys inside. She crawls through the fence to enter the garden without hesitation. But as soon as she steps into the garden, she is discovered by a vicious dog of this house. Then, Marilee is mauled by the dog and becomes unconscious. At a critical moment, Bubba breaks through the fence to save his friend. But when he brings Marilee to her house, her mother assumes him to be the culprit. She cries bitterly. Meanwhile, Otis also receives news that Marilee was injured. He promptly assumes that Bubba has murdered her. So he and his accomplices take guns and 2 bloodhounds to chase Bubba. In a panic, Bubba finds his mother for help. She tells him to run away quickly, she will stay here to hold them off. When Otis and the others come, she loudly scolds them and affirms that her son is not the culprit. But of course Otis doesn't believe in her. They keep searching. The bloodhounds sniff Bubba out, so they quickly discover Bubba's whereabouts. After that, all 4 vigilantes shoot Bubba to death. Bubba just died, through CB radio on the truck. They discover that Marilee is in fact alive. Bubba is not the killer but the one who saved her. Hearing this news, the group immediately panics. Acting fast, Otis places a pitchfork in Bubba's lifeless hand, to make it appear as if they are acting in self-defense. The big Bubba was shot dead by the group of townspeople. They then put a pitchfork in his hand, to create a fake scene that they were in self-defense. A few days later, Bubba's mother, Mrs. Ritter, sues 4 men for her son's murder. During the trial, the 2 sides argue fiercely. The 4 vigilantes are subsequently released, because of lack of evidence against them. This makes Mrs. Ritter completely broken down. She causes a commotion in the court, and is dragged out by the police. The killers decide to go to the pub to celebrate their innocence. They are drinking and laughing together. They feel completely no remorse. At this moment, outside the pub, a strong wind arose, as if Bubba is trying to vent his anger. While Marilee is sleeping, suddenly she hears Bubba's vague call. She sneaks out of her room by the window, and goes to the nearby field where Bubba died. Bubba's mother goes after her. Marilee tells her, Uncle Bubba is not gone, only hiding somewhere. Mrs. Ritter is deeply saddened to hear these words. She herself can't accept the fact that her son had left her. In the following days, Otis and others accomplices live happily. They can't expect that a nightmare is about to descend on them. In the evening, Harless hears some sounds coming from his barn. He rushes in to check, but finds nothing unusual. Suddenly, some hay fell on him. While he is investigating up in the loft, he finds a strange wooden trunk here. He is about to climb up to check when a wood chipper below starts of its own accord. Harless panics and loses his balance. Luckily, he grabs the ceiling light in time so he doesn't fall. Suddenly, an electrical leakage causes him to get an electric shock. Harless topples over into the machine and is killed. Not long after, the 2 remaining accomplices come to see Otis. They suspect that Harless' death was not an accident. Then the 3 of them go to the barn where Harless died to find out the truth. They find a piece of Bubba's clothes inside, which sent a chill down their spines. One day, Otis goes to Bubba's house to find Mrs. Ritter. Seeing Marilee here, he smiles and talks to her. But Marilee just gives him a cold glance and runs away. Otis accuses Mrs. Ritter of having engineered this accident to force him to make a confession. She denies involvement and warns him. She also implies that Otis is a pedophile, because of his intense interest in Marilee, which causes him to run off. One day, when Philby is working, a scarecrow appears in his barley field. He runs there to see and finds that this scarecrow is Bubba they shot dead before. Immediately, he runs to find Otis in panic. He tells Otis this unbelievable incident. But when they get there, the scarecrow disappeared. Philby says maybe they should confess, otherwise they will all lose their lives. However, Otis disagrees, because he always thinks it's all a plot of Bubba's mother. That night Otis breaks into Mrs. Ritter's house. He stops her mouth tight and asks if she did all these things. He shocks her so badly that she suffers a fatal heart attack. Otis is also shocked by this sudden situation. When he is about to escape, he suddenly finds a kettle of boiling water in the kitchen. Otis starts a gas leak, which results in an explosion that completely destroys the house. The next day, the police come to investigate, and then conclude this fire was just an accident. The demon Otis once again escapes the punishment of the law, but his accomplice isn't lucky like him. The next night, Philby is disturbed by a commotion outside. While checking it out, he discovers it's the sound of iron chains hitting the wall. He just thinks that he's pushing the panic button. Suddenly, he sees a mysterious shape sneaking into his house. He tries to flee in his car. Suddenly the car can't start. He has no choice but to take refuge in a grain silo. Hearing the sound of footsteps getting farther away, he gives a sigh of relief. But when he wants to leave, he's unable to open the now locked door. A conveyor belt feeding into the building is switched on. A large amount of grain poured into the silo. Not long after, he is buried in the resulting avalanche of grain. The next day, upon learning from Otis of Philby's death, Skeeter insists on confessing, but is stopped by Otis. That night, the two dig up Bubba's grave to prove that Bubba is still alive, and is playing prank on them. When the coffin lid opened, the corpse is still there. Skeeter screams in panic, tries to flee. While Skeeter is down closing the coffin lid, Otis decides to protect himself. He kills Skeeter with a shovel, then throws his body into Bubba's coffin. After that, he gets in the car and drives home. Suddenly, Otis sees Marilee alone in the middle of the road. He chases her on foot into a pumpkin patch. Catching up with her, he sees Marilee hiding behind a bulldozer. When he is about to kill the girl, the bulldozer starts of its own accord. Marilee takes the opportunity to run away. Terrified, Otis flees as the machine pursues him. Running through the field, Otis runs into the Scarecrow. It is still holding the pitchfork that was planted on Bubba's corpse before. Mortally wounded, Otis collapses and dies. Bubba also completed his revenge.